Good day and welcome to Watchlist by Ayo. Today, we are examining a relatively lesser known but increasingly dangerous armed group operating in the northwestern Nigeria, commonly referred to as the Lakurawa terrorist group. In this video, we will explain who they are, where they came from, what they believe, how they operate, and why their rise is a serious security concern for Nigeria and the wider Sahel region. The Lakurawa are an armed extremist group operating primarily in the northwestern Nigeria, especially in parts of Sokoto, Kebbi, and Zamfara states, close to Nigeria border with Niger and Burkina Faso. Unlike conventional criminal bandits, the Lakurawa are widely described by security analysts as a hybrid group, blending banditry, religious extremism, and militant governance tactics. Their activities include attacks on communities, intimidation of local populations, and violent confrontation with state authorities. The Lakurawa did not emerge in isolation. Their rise is closely tied to a wider collapse of security across the Sahel, particularly in Mali, Burkina Faso, and Niger, where jihadist groups have expanded rapidly over the past decades. As military pressure increased in those countries, extremist fighters began moving southwards. In northwestern Nigeria, where banditry, armed trafficking, and weak state presence already existed, these fighters found fertile ground to embed themselves within local criminal networks. Other times, this mixture of foreign jihadists influenced the local armed bandits, crystallized into what is now known as the Lakurawa group. How did this group begin, and what is their ideology? In part of Sokoto state, there was a time when armed men known locally as the Lakurawas were not feared. They were welcomed. Community relied on them to guide highways, protect villages, escort travelers, and repair bandits. But today, those same men are accused of terrorizing the very people who once trusted them. So how did a group that began as informal security allies transform into a violent extremist threat? This is a story of how trust collapsed into terror. To understand the rise of the Lakurawa, we must first understand the security vacuum in rural Sokoto state. For years, vast rural communities faced poor road access, minimal police presence, slow emergency response, increasing bandit attack. Villages were isolated and highways became dangerous. In this environment, community began to seek alternative form of protection, a pattern seen across northern Nigeria. It was under this condition that the Lakurawa emerged, presenting themselves not as terrorists but as a protector. The turning point came when protection shifted into control. The Lakurawa began to decide who could travel on certain roads, demand contribution for security, enforce rule beyond simple protection. Villages that resisted were threatened. This is a familiar pattern in conflict zone. Armed protectors evolved into unelected rulers. At the same time, the Lakurawa were being ideologically influenced from outside Nigeria. Fighters and preachers linked to extremist movements in Niger, Burkina Faso, and Mali were spreading a hardline jihadist ideology across the Sahel. The Lakurawa began to adopt rejection of Nigerian state authorities, condemnation of traditional leaders, claim of enforcing true Islam. Religion became a tool of legitimacy used to justify violence and obedience. Eventually, the relationship collapsed completely. Communities that once welcomed the Lakurawa found themselves attacked, extorted, and forced to flee. The same fighter who claimed to protect life and property now destroyed both. For many locals, this was not just violence, it was betrayal. Today, the Lakurawa operate as full-fledged armed extremist group. Their method includes ambushes, highway attack, kidnapping, use of explosives. They rely on forest hideouts, cross-border movements, and forced cooperation from civilians. What began as local protection has evolved into organized terror. Security analysts believe that the Lakurawa now operate within border Sahelian jihadist network with ideological link to group aligned with the Islamic State of the Greater Sahara. This raises alarm. Sokoto is no longer facing just banditry, but transnational extremism. The Lakurawa story offers a powerful lesson. When communities are forced to rely on armed non-state actors for protection, the result can be temporary relief, followed by long-term disaster. Security gaps invite actors who may later turn against the people they claim to defend. What happened in Sokoto is not unique, but it's a warning. The Lakurawa did not arrive at muster, they became one. Understanding how the transformation happened is essential if Nigeria is to prevent similar threats elsewhere. This is Watchlist by Ayo. Thanks for watching. Let me know what your thoughts are in the comment section. Bye.